it's never easy. I don't like recommending that a little boy be taken away from his family any more than you do, but it was a really bad situation. I mean, okay, there were 7 people living in this tiny little house with no running water. The father's gone for long stretches of time, apparently for work, but you never know, right? And the mom was running in 100 different directions, trying to take care of her 3 kids, plus her elderly parents. It was a real mess.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, it was. And the mother and the son both said that he was injured playing ball, but you could just tell that they weren't telling the truth. The mom seemed so stressed out, and there was something about the way the son kept looking at her. It just all added up. So, anyway, enough about me. How was the conference you went to?
It was great. I'm really glad I was able to go. I had just started an investigation, but our wonderful supervisor here kindly reassigned it to somebody else. There wasn't much to the investigation, though. It was a false alarm. A 10-year-old boy with a bruised face. A big, shiny black eye. Looked awful. But it turned out he had gotten hit with a soccer ball, and his teacher assumed the worst when she saw it. And the family. Nicest family you could imagine. Mom works at a flower shop. The dad's in the Air National Guard, serving in Iraq.
God bless him.
And there were 2 older sisters, twins, very well behaved.
Twin sisters?
And the grandparents, they live in the little apartment in back, and they help look out for the kids. Anyway, the day I visited, the family was having such a tough time. Some construction nearby knocked out their water line. So they had to bathe, cook, flush the toilet with jugs of water. But you know, they all had such good attitudes about it. It's just the kind of family you just have a good feel about.
Yeah, right.
Maria, what's the matter? Hey, who did you assign to pick up my investigation anyway? Oh my. Are we talking about?
Yeah, the same family.
But it sure doesn't sound like the same family, does it? How could these 2 well-trained, experienced social workers come to such completely different conclusions? Maria described a home with 7 family members. The injured boy, his 2 siblings, his mom, 2 grandparents, and a dad who lives there but isn't home much. And one other thing, no running water. Monica talked about a hard-working, loving mom, 2 well-behaved older siblings, kindly grandparents, and a simple accident on the soccer field. As for the dad who's not at home, he's serving in the military. And the lack of running water, that's the city's problem, not the family's fault. Monica and Maria went into the same home and saw 2 very different pictures. We know there was no difference in what they saw, so the difference must be in how they saw it.
I feel weird about this. How could we
How do I
have...
look? Never mind. The important thing is, what do I see when I look through these lenses? I see the same thing you see, but with a slightly reddish tint.
And the point is...
And with these, I see the same things you see, but I see everything just a little bit differently. It's the same with you 2. You each observed that family through the lens of your own experiences, your own backgrounds, and our own biases.
Oh, well, but I'm not prejudiced. I believe that everyone should be treated equally.
I know you do, but I'm not talking about mean-spirited prejudice. I'm talking about the simple biases that we all have.
I don't believe in stereotyping. I think that we...
So, Monica, how do you feel about Asian people?
Oh, well, they're also smart. I knew this Asian girl in college, and she...
That's a stereotype.
But I meant it in a positive way.
Positive or negative. When we make assumptions based on race or culture or income level...
Then we're relying on our own biased opinions instead of seeing people for who they really are.
Precisely. We need to be able to say, I see what I see, but I just might be seeing it through my own set of tinted lenses, my own biases. If we can remember that, we can be more objective in our work. The danger is when we don't recognize our own biases. And the problem isn't only restricted to social workers.
My job is more than just teaching kids. It's also about protecting them, keeping an eye out for any problems they might be having, and especially keeping an eye out for any signs of abuse. I know that abuse can take place in all sorts of families. I know it can happen anywhere. Of course, because of certain cultural differences, abuse is more likely to occur in some parts of the community than others.
Whoa, she just set off the bias buzzer. And she was doing so well. And just think how much we social workers rely on information from teachers and other professionals. We need to be aware that just like us, they too may have biases.
When we see a newborn baby in distress, draw that baby's blood, and discover the baby was born addicted to drugs, it just makes my blood boil. That baby needs medical attention, and most of all, needs more love than that mother is apparently willing or capable of giving. But on the other hand, sometimes a genuinely good mother can, make a mistake with legitimate prescription drugs. So you just have to make a judgment call before you phone DHS.
But what does this nurse mean by a good mother? Sometimes medical professionals may assume that white, middle-class, or wealthy mothers are just making mistakes, while poor, single, black mothers are hardcore drug addicts. One group gets recommendations for medical help, the other gets a visit from the authorities. To me, that looks like a double standard.
These poor children, their mom incarcerated and their daddy a young fella just getting started in life. And he says he can take care of them on his own, but it's always better for young children to have a mother figure. These children are just going to do better in foster care.
Well, maybe so, and maybe not. In this day and age, haven't we learned that fathers can be loving, caring, and nurturing to young children too? You see, from the people who report incidents to us all the way up to the judges who decide the cases, bias is a factor. So what are we going to do about it?
But the mom admitted to being violent. She told me that she whooped her son. It's a pretty stunning admission, don't you think?
Honey, a whooping is the same as a spanking. It doesn't mean a beating took place.
It doesn't?
Nope.
But if she was spanking him really hard...
Then ask the mom about that. And if you don't understand a word... I sense such a fresh, new enlightenment across the cultural divide. What? I'm trying to encourage you. Can you two just freeze for a minute? I want to encourage you, too. In your training, you'll learn how race, class, culture, and other factors give people different views of the world. You'll learn a new respect for ways of life other than your own. You'll learn to recognize the lenses that you tend to see the world through, and maybe even learn how to take those lenses off.
Where did she go?
How does she do that?
The check? Who gets it?
She is so tricky. Looks like we'll be paying for this lesson and for her lunch. Ooh.